Good afternoon, everyone. Today, in fact, is the first webinar from our sustainability series. As you know, that we launched our sustainable guidelines yesterday. Loveleen Sagar did it in the annual associate office meet, and you'll hear more from her very soon. And we are very extremely excited to have this webinar, which is the first webinar from our sustainability series. This is very exciting topic, which is called the healing villages of Eastern Himalayas. We're going to spend the next 1 hour or maybe a little more talking about it. But I would like to start by showing you a video before I kind of put out my PowerPoint. Here's a short video. This is a short video of a healing village. Lovely. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint. All right, so today's webinar is about the healing villages of Eastern Himalayas. And on the panel to tell us more, we have Mr. Raj Basu of Health Tourism and Association for Conservation and Tourism, which is ACT. Here is, let me introduce Mr. Basu a little bit for you guys. As a co-founder of Health Tourism, Raj Basu has been speaking the language of sustainability for over 30 years in at least 8 languages and dialects. He can speak many languages and dialects. And he's widely considered as a pioneer in community tourism in East and Northeast India. His Association for Conservation and Tourism, ACT, is a not-for-profit organization established in 2001, and it has shown the way for rural tourism as a tool for empowerment of local communities, and has helped in poverty elevation and establishing peace in the Eastern Himalayas. We're talking about the Eastern Himalayas. That's the Eastern Himalayas. My first question to you, Mr. Basu, would be, tell us about the Eastern Himalayas. What region does it encompass and how rich it is in its biodiversity.
Yes.
And
First of
welcome,
all,
Mr. Basu, to the webinar.
thank you. Thank you. Namaste, everyone who is listening. And thank you, Kuntil, for putting this together. I'm really honored because with the launch of the sustainability program, this is the first webinar which is coming from you. So this is really wonderful and extraordinary for me because, being part of such a team that I could be. So the places that I have been working on is certainly the East Himalayan region and the Indo-Burma region. When you look at this region, you can see at the map over here, if you see very closely at the map that has been nicely put together, you can see that it goes all the way from Nepal through the northern part of Bengal, through Bhutan, the entire northeastern region, touching Yunnan at a point, touching, the upper Myanmar area, the northern Thailand area. So it's the horseshoe. If you look at the whole map together, you'll find that it's a horseshoe between the Indian peninsula and the Malayan peninsula. So this entire peninsulas between this peninsula, this horseshoe has hardly been noticed by anyone, has hardly been understood in the past few centuries. It's only during World War II, some of us, we had some of the occasions over here where we had to fight over here, means Indians fighting with Indians over here. We could see it at a point for the Allied forces and over there for the other side with the along with the Japanese and the other people. So this is a region which was hardly understood, hardly talked about, and the mystery of this region still remains on this date, still remains. But what we often forget, this is the region, if you see very close to the map, between the Bay of Bengal and up to the Silk Route in the Tibetan Plateau area. If you see, this is the nearest aerial distance. It's hardly around 200 kilometers if you see from sea to the highest plateaus over there, and and the sea route that started over here was the maritime route or the rice route that we see, where the Bay of Bengal played a major role, specifically the Chittagong port that played a major role, when the Europeans came and found through the Portuguese, through the French, and through the other people. And of course, the Silk Route has always been known as the Silk Route, which was earlier the tea route, the ancient tea horse route, that gradually with weaving and everything that came over here. So if you see that the rivers in those days there were no roads, so the riverine route from the Bay of Bengal went up to a certain point, and from there it was a walking route or the mule route going up to the Silk Route. And if you see, this is the major contribution to the modern civilization that we have, because trade was shown from here. And what did we trade in, and what were the things that we have over here, from rice to corn to sweet oranges to chickens to everything that you can talk about in this world as on your plate. Actually, their mother seed went from here. The mother gene went from this region, which many of us do not know, either through the rice route or through the Silk Route. And why did it happen? Because in the boats we could carry the terracotta vessels, where we could put the rice and the other things, and we could carry it in the port. Whereas on the Silk Route we could weave the bags and baskets which would carry on our back or on the mule backs actually. So this carrying means contributing to the weaving and contributing to terracotta, were the two major things that we have contributed to the world civilization, which goes unrecognized. Because when we talk about the civilization, we only talk about going up from the fire, the invention of fire and the wheel, and directly to the industrial revolution, which the entire middle portion that we have done to this civilization is missing. And why this was possible is because of this region that we are talking about, this eastern Himalaya and the Indo-Burma region that we are talking about. Look at the map very closely. This is also known as the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. And the Hindu Kush Himalayan region contributes to more than one third of the total biodiversity of this world, and more than one third of the fresh water content of the world. So you can understand that how rich is this area, and particularly the core region of northeastern India, with the bordering countries is the core of this region, which is the richest amongst all and which is the least explored area of all the areas. So Hindu Kush Himalayan region nowadays, now that people have started understanding, when people are talking about climate change, they now feel that this is the third pole of the world. And without the third pole of the world, probably the world would not be there. So a lot of attention have slowly and gradually is coming to this region, and especially to this core region of east and northeast India, along with the adjoining countries. So Kuntal, uh, as you said, this is a very important area just by naming it by East Himalaya or Indo-Burma biodiversity hotspot, and this one would be undermining this. But as a Hindu Kush Himalayan region, and being the core of the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, that has contributed to the best of the best times, the golden period of the world for the earth, that is through the Silk Route and through the rice route, is something what has taken the earth today to the new civilization.
Right, and
So this,
I liked it that how you put the third pole of the world after the North Pole and the South Pole.
yes,
In this
yes,
change, in this scenario of climate change, which is staring at us. You also say that the villages of Eastern Himalayas
yes.
are classrooms for sustainable development. Why do you say this?
Yes, yes, Kuntal, because it's very unfortunate, when I go to the different meetings, when they talk about the sustainable development goals, often you'll find that so many countries have signed this SDG 17. And initially they said, we want to achieve this by certain year, and now they are saying we want to achieve it by 2030. But they completely neglect this region where sustainability is still date practiced, where people still practice the life of sustainability, even if they don't have a single penny, even if they don't have a single industrial produce, still they can live and they can sustain their lives. So this is the particular region why this has happened, as I was telling in the previous description, because of the biodiversity that they have over here. This rich biodiversity is the part of the lifestyle of the people over here. Often because during the colonial period, we couldn't understand these people. We couldn't understand their sustainability. And because they didn't need any of the industrial produce, we thought they are backdated, they are, tribals, and we named them anything that we wanted anthropologically. So,
Right.
this colonial anthropology has certainly put us back many years, and haven't let this sustainability to be recognized. So this is the time, where we see tourism as a tool for recognition of this sustainability. And this is where, we look into the policies of the different states and of the different practitioners over here, where instead of reinventing tourism and introducing the so-called modern tourism over here, why can't we start off with sustainable tourism over here, which the world is looking forward to and trying to achieve.
Because
And when
because
you
because it's
Yes.
deeply ingrained in them for centuries now. I mean,
Uh,
it's a
uh,
part of their
and
life.
and not only that, Kuntil, just see, because you are from this region. If you go
Yeah.
to any house in Arunachal, in Manipur, in Mizoram, in Nagaland, in Assam, in Tripura, in Sikkim, or in the north of West Bengal, any of these northeastern areas, you will find that each and every tribal people, for their basics, that is food, clothing, and shelter, they are not dependent on anyone. They are not dependent on any outside market force, because they can grow their own food, they can collect their own food from the nature, because more than 50 to 60, 65% of their food they collect from their backyard biodiversity. Today we call them national parks and wildlife sanctuaries and reserve forests. We give them different names, but they are there because they are part of our lives. They are part of the lives of the tribal people, of the people staying over there. And this is the reason so much of forest, so much of the primary forest, so much of the primary habitat is still retained in the entire northeastern region. And because it is connected to the people's life. So the food comes from there. The You look at all the construction that is there, they are not at all dependent on the the iron that comes from the factories, the cement that comes from the factories. They built their house from their backyard biodiversity again, the stones, the mud, the bamboo, the timber, whatever is available. And that is the reason, they know how to, because they pray to the nature around them. They pray to the hills, to the rivers, to the rains, To everyone they pray. And this is what mistakenly in the colonial language we call them animists, because we couldn't understand them and we call them animists. But if you look at them closely, this is the religion of biodivinity. This is where each and
Biodivinity.
yes, this is where each and every animal evolved from, and human beings with an evolving mind adapted this as a religion. So this is the most primary religion that is still practiced in the northeastern or the eastern, or this areas that I am talking about. Uh, and this is where the religion of biodivinity is basically the practice of sustainability. Each and every house in our northeastern region, I would say tribal house in our northeastern region, for the woman to go after getting married, it is the mother who gives her the loom, the hand loom with them with this one. So that is the tradition. We weave our own clothes, we weave our own baskets to carry. We weave the walls of our houses. We weave the roofs of our houses. We don't need a plastic bucket to carry water. We have the big bamboos to carry water. Even when we are piping the water, we join the half bamboos one after the other and bring the water from the waterfall. So you see the knapsack that we carry in the cities. This knapsack has been carried by our people and friends in the northeast in cane and in bamboo, probably for how many thousands of years we do not know. So each and everything is available here to sustain yourself. And when you are staying in one of the homestays in the northeastern, you get to interact with this lifestyle. So it is not about a holiday that you are spending. You are actually spending time with your sustainable guru, and you are learning a life how to be sustainable. So it has to be the classroom for each and every leader, each and every scientist who is trying to bring in sustainability to this world. They should come
Fantastic.
and learn from these people that what sustainability is and how people can lead towards sustainability. The entire answer is over here. The entire practice is over here. It doesn't have to be put in black and white. It is a practicing science that we have in the entire region. So this
Right.
is yes,
Right.
please.
Mr. Vasu, you talk, I really love the word biodivinity. This is a map which I found in one of the presentation that you made. This is a
Yes,
map of this region today we call Eastern Himalayas was once
yes,
called the Mahakali Kshetra.
yes,
This is a map from 2nd century BC to mid 11th century.
yes,
Uh,
yes,
you were telling me that here the spirituality of nature, which you call bio divinity, was practiced in depth, and this
yes.
ancient practice is now acknowledged by modern day science as a practice which cures and heals.
Yes.
Can you tell us more about this age-old practice of spirituality of nature of the Mahakali Kshetra?
Yes, just beyond the Vedic period, if you see, just beyond the Vedic period, from the time if we consider into our calendar, into our Indian calendar or the Indian subcontinent calendar, where if we start with the birth of Gautama Buddha, Buddha himself, Lord Buddha himself, because he's not supposed to be the only Buddha. There were several Buddhas before him, as per his teachings and everything. So from we have a lot of records from Gautama Buddha's time onwards, which is from 6th century BC onwards, and up to about the time we saw the golden period of the practice in Buddhism, like how what did he gain from a very big and royal family of the Sakya kingdom. He decided to be a monk. He decided to be a monk. Then he came down to the period to the areas what we know as Bodh Gaya today, actually beside the river, beside the river Niranjana. Then, so over here when he prayed and he was looking for the answers, and he found the answer in the truth. So this was the time this practice was on. So that's the reason this region that we say is known as Mahakali Kshetra, or the area or the region of Mahakal, because it is said that they found out a science which could connect to time beyond. The Kal is the time, and connecting to the Mahakal, that is the time beyond. So all this, as I told you, all these rivers that came down from this Hindu Kush Himalayan region, probably this Eastern Himalayan region. If you look at all these rivers that came down, they brought in a biodiversity and the connect of the people living over them, understanding that biodiversity through this religion of biodivinity. A lot of us often, often connect to Tantra, because when we talk about the Vajrayana sect, which is also known as Nalanda Buddhism now, okay. So if you look, that there were five major universities that came up in this area. This is where it was first institutionalized, starting from the Nalanda University to the Vikramshila, to Udantapuri, to Jagdalla, to Sompur Mahavyara, which is now in the northern part of Bangladesh, actually, Sompur Mahavyara. So these are the five, Mahavyaras or the universities that came up. And under these five institutions, they cater to the viharas, because people who studied in the viharas, which is to be the colleges and schools. And we know that the entire Asian people, they came over here to study in those days. What was the reason? What was it they came to study? Because we do not know anything beyond the four walls, beyond the books, beyond the computers on today's date from the universities. But if you look into what they studied, we find records that they studied from Winsang's, from Fahin's writing. We find that they studied medicine, they studied uh, everything from physics to mathematics. Everything was taught in these universities and viharas. And you can see that Bihar, because there were so many viharas, that Bihar gets its name from this viharas. So this continued all the way to Myanmar, because this trade route was already very active, and the entire philosophy spread over here. The philosophy of biodivinity, it spread and it got its root and got institutionalized in this Mahakal Kshetra. From here, it gradually spread to the rest of Asia, and then to the rest of the world through the trade routes. We already know how it was carried to the different trade routes and how it went. So if you look at it, often we misunderstand, or often we sometimes we interpret the entire culture as as tantra. Now, if you look at tantra, how does it come in the tat, the weave that you have, and the extension in what do you do in the weave? It's a tat yantra. Tat yantra, that means it's a instrument where you can weave things, making it broader. So it's basically weaving of the mind with nature. So you weave your mind with the nature, and you learn and you understand the basics of nature inside you, and then you start practicing it, how to live in harmony, what we call sustainability today. So this is the root of all sustainable culture that we are talking about, how to live with nature, because this is what we are trying to do today. So this is the form that we have to start living today also. How to stretch our minds to make it into a big cloth that we can wear around us from small threads. So this is what the mind has to do, and this is what only a human mind can do. No other mind can do. So the mind, the training of the mind before anything else is much more necessary than anything. So Kal joining to Mahakal. So if you understand time, and if you want to understand beyond that, you have to train your mind for that. And this
Right.
is still available into this region. You will still find, in the region, we have people who understand this. And if you look at, the background of Buddhism over here, you will find that Atish Dipankara was one of the people who took it all the way from the Vajrayogini village, close to, then Bikrampur in Dhaka, which is the village which is still there, part of the village is still there. The entire village was known as the Vajrayogini village. So you can understand that everybody, because he was also from the royal family. So everyone over there practiced this in those days. So from Buddha's family to Atisha's family to everyone, if you look at their life history, you will see that they were practicing this culture of Mahakal, or this culture of biodivinity. And that is the reason the Mahakali region still remains. And it still remains very distinct, like any Hindu house that you talk about, they carry the Narayan Shila, which comes from the river, from the Mahakal region of the river in Nepal. Okay, Kali Gandaki river in Nepal. So
Yeah.
the Kali Gandaki river, the rivers that we have in Nepal, in eastern India, in northeastern India, are the source of this thought process of. So this region remains as the region of the Mahakali Kshetra, or the region of Mahakal. And
Right.
even on today's date, Kuntil, if you come to Sikkim, if you come to this northern part of West Bengal, we consider Kanchanjunga as the Mahakal. The deity, the main Kanchanjunga deity is the guardian deity, and his immediate, the general is the Mahakal. The elephant that you see in the western part of Assam or in the northern part of West Bengal, the elephant movement, after evening, no local person calls the elephant Hathi or the elephant in the local language. They say it's Mahakal who is passing across. This is the respect for the
Fantastic.
elephant. Yes. The when you
Fantastic.
say
Bio divinity, as you're talking about, and working with your inner architecture, which you talk about. We will come to that. My The art of sharing, the joy of giving, and healing through compassion. This is something that I kind of uh, did my research on some of the webinars that you were talking about. Uh, in a healing village, tourists are seen as a part of the landscape. I find the idea of resource exchange, which you say resource exchange,
exchange, yes,
very interesting. There are visitors with the resource of economy on one hand, and there are villagers with the resource of ecology
ecology on the other hand,
on the
yes.
other hand, and there's a beautiful equitable exchange. uh, tell us more about this exchange and how that leads to healing.
Yes. Uh, Kuntal, if you see very closely, in the past few years, the world has been talking about voluntourism. People from across, mainly it started with gap students who used to come to certain villages across the world, used to work with the villagers and then go back. Even when we look at tourism, we think, tourists are people who have the money, they come to us, and we always consider, that they are coming here for giving. They are like milking money out of them. We always think, as traders, that milking money out of them, or tourists is something where we should milk money out of them. But if you look very closely, and we cannot be so shallow with the word tourism, because this is the only industry that ends with ism, with a philosophy. So what is tourism? We have to understand, because it's a philosophy that joins that has four pillars, that has four very strong pillars, where the main pillar is certainly the tourist or the traveler himself. The guest himself is one of the pillars. The second pillar is the host, whom they are visiting, where they are going. The third pillar is the destination. And the fourth and the most strongest pillar is the travel itself. So if you look into this entire cycle of these four pillars, Kuntal, you will see, the travel itself is so very important for this one. So when this guest is coming, he or she is coming, he or she has a resource from maybe from a city or from somewhere which is very limited. Huh? It may look huge from the modern context point of view, but from the heritage point of view, it is very limited, because it must be only economy or some skills which is related to survival in the cities. But when they come to a village, they see that where their food comes from. They see, the soil, how it is nurtured. They see that how, the water that they're getting, how it is nurtured, how it is taken care of through the entire kind of life process or lifestyle of the skills of the local people that have come through years and years. So with this art and skill, which is heritage, which people in the villages have already acquired through generations, is something what you cannot buy, is something, even if you spend a lot of money, you cannot be taught in classrooms in cities. It has to be taken from here. So when you say resource exchange, means we from the cities have a certain resource like economical resource. We come to the village and we learn from, as I said, from our gurus over here in the village, because they are not our service providers. We in the industry have made it very cheap, and we say, they are just service providers. They are not service providers. They are actually acharyas. They are teachers who would teach each and every city people how to lead a sustainable life. And this is where, once the tourists, they start appreciating their host in this manner, if they start appreciating their so-called service provider in this manner, then it gives them a pride. Like if the tourist has the pride of being into a city, living into an air condition, having a lot of money, riding a large four-wheeler, or going on the air in the most luxurious air, could be something what is pride for him. But here, as the villager recognizes his pride, his clothes, his binoculars, his camera, his bag, as they appreciate that, In the same way, the tourist has to learn how to appreciate the villagers' lifestyle and their culture and their heritage, their tradition. So this resource exchange would create a new world. I'm not saying that this is small and the other is big, or the other is small and this is big. We have to find this balance through tourism over here. And once we have respect for each other's resource, then it is a real better platform where, we always remain, have pride for each other. We have love for each other. And this is how the relation develops. So through the art of sharing, through this art of sharing, when we say art of sharing and joy of giving, as I told you, for a human being to be a human being in this position of, for the past 7 months, this should have been the learning for each and every person who is living in the cities, because we live into a secondary livelihood. We are dependent on a secondary livelihood. An entire secondary livelihood has stopped for a few months. Under such circumstances, we are locked in our houses. So physically, we are probably having food. We have energy for the body. But when you have locked our mind, when you have jailed our mind, that means our mind is not developing at all. And for a mind to develop, you have to travel. And that has been adopted in each and every religion you talked about. So people talk about pilgrimage. That is pre the travel, the modern travel that we see. People did the pilgrimage. Pilgrimage means tirthi yatra. So if you don't do the tirthi yatra to reach your tirtha sthan or your destination, this yatra is very necessary. This travel is very necessary to develop your mind. So this is the time when, our tourists that we interact with, each and every member of the industry or the tourism trade now should understand that we should create tourists who would think about resource exchange, who would come and contribute whatever they have learned to the villagers by respecting what they have. At the same time, they would get back the same respect from the villager or from the so-called service provider, who will not look at him or her as a money milking machine. They would look at him or her as someone who has come with a compassionate mind. So
And
this is
this
where, it gives you the joy. The compassionate mind always gives you the joy. So, you have dan. In each and every culture in the East, we have dan. We do the dan. So this is the reason. Sorry, I took a lot of time. I got
No,
into
no,
it.
no. It is quite. It was very interesting how you
Yeah.
put it that tourism that now you need to focus on resource exchange, which is one of the driving spirits of the healing villages. The one thing that really kind of stuck me is
Yeah.
what do you call inner architecture. At the healing villages, you work on what you say is the inner architecture of the visitors.
Yes.
It sounds like a really big word. It sounds complicated, but you say it is something very simple. It is not about any gods or goddesses or religion. It has always existed in the villages for centuries, and it is the key to know your inner self. Tell us more about what the inner architecture is and
Yes.
how you work on it on visitors who come to the healing villages.
Yes, yes, Kuntal. It's a wonderful this one. Yes, because people, when you talk about inner architecture, they look at a big spiritual figure in front of them. But we, as all of us being a part of this tourism industry, of this travel trade, all of us from being tour operators or hoteliers or this one, we cannot take that position. But what we can take our position is, at least people in the East, they would understand, because you would know, what do we say tourism or travel in the local Eastern language? Could you just tell me, Kuntil?
What?
What do
What?
we say in the local, like we, for the immediate translation for tourism in Hindi or in Sanskrit
Hmm.
or in Pali is paryatan.
Paryatan.
But then we have a Eastern language also for that. Eastern, we call it Brahman. If you see in
Brahman.
Assam, in Bengal, in Orissa, in all this, we call it Brahman.
Hmm.
So when you look into this word Brahman, you will find that it has a mention in Rig Veda. So you can understand why I am talking about it. So Brahman has a mention in Rig Veda. And what does Brahm? Brahm means it comes from your mind. So in those days, we had always had dual meanings for the travel. For Brahman, we had dual meanings for Brahman. One is you travel outside physically. You go on a travel, you travel outside. And the other part of the Brahman, the second meaning of the Brahman is when you cannot travel outside, then you travel inside. So this lockdown period was a time for me, when I started practicing the so-called Brahman, the oldest form of travel that was there, because you are locked down. And when, as I told you in the beginning, for 37 years I have been traveling. I do not remember any 3 nights staying at one place continuously. So for me, being closed at home, being locked at home was something what I had to learn. So then I started learning, uh, that you can travel inside also. So a traveler always had two phases. So when you go to a village and when you are staying over there, the entire practicing of the rural lifestyle makes you discover your inside, makes you travel inside yourself. When you're standing at the edge of a mountain and looking at the huge Kanchenjunga range or the huge Himalaya in front of you, you can understand that how small you are. Then you start traveling inside, because you know that even in your entire lifestyle you cannot spend in the Himalaya. You cannot go to each and every place in the Himalaya. You cannot reach most of the Himalaya. Then you start traveling inside. When you look at the big forest in front of you, this huge forest, anywhere, when you start standing on a on a viewpoint on Kaziranga, and you look at the grassland, the water bodies and everything, you know that you cannot travel to each and every point that you are seeing in Kaziranga. Then you start traveling inside, that how you can take that nature, that part of nature inside you, how you can really reach that place. Even if you cannot reach there physically, then how do you reach from inside over there? So this is what starts teaching you, the inner architecture inside you. Because outer architecture we all see, your eyes, your nose, your head, your everything we can see through the outer architecture that you have. But most of us, we cannot see the inner architecture. So to see the inner architecture, you have to be a part of travel. You have to travel out of the four walls of your house and be a part of this nature. And stand in front of nature. Maybe it's a sea or a big river. Uh, Anywhere in Brahmaputra, what is the love or the connect of Brahmaputra that people have when they stand in front of Brahmaputra? Is it only a river? It is the vastness of the river where we know we cannot conquer it. Because human beings always have a tendency of conquering something. They always think, they can conquer. They say we conquered Everest. They say that we have conquered such and such place. You cannot conquer. So where beyond your conquering, physically conquering a place, then you start traveling inside. And that is your inner architecture that you start understanding. So this is something what you have to learn by living in a village. It just cannot come in a 2 days tour or by a explanation. It is a practice of travel and understanding of nature, and that gives you. That is the reason I told you we call our industry tourism. You do not call the steel industry as steelism. You do not call any other big industry with a ism, and that is the reason we call tourism. The word ism, the philosophy comes because it is not only about exploring the outside, but it is also exploring your inner self, exploring and understanding your inner architecture. So this is how the entire tourism or the travel has got so much of importance in our life. So this is
And I have realized during my own visits to villages in
yes,
nature that you are completely present in the moment, and you are absolutely mindful of
yes,
what you are doing. Would you like to dwell a little bit more on that while talking
yes,
about the inner
yes,
architecture in the healing
yes,
villages?
yes, certainly, certainly, Kuntal, we have always been talking about it. When we have a guest, when you have a guide, this is what we teach our guides in the villages. We often think, they may not be wonderful entrepreneurs through their languages, but they are wonderful entrepreneurs when it comes to explaining the lifestyle of a local villager or a livelihood connect of the local villager. And this is where you have to be present. Means you cannot be in future, you cannot be in the past.
Yeah,
You have to
which we
be in the
mostly
present.
are, and
Yes,
which yeah.
most of the time we are. Yes, we will either live. We always say, we had such a wonderful past. We had such a glorious past. Or we say, we look forward. We are saving for a future. We are doing an insurance for a future. Maybe we'll have a better health. We go to the best doctors. We are looking for the future. But what we forget to understand or forget to live is to live in the present. None of us live in the present because If you have to live in the present, you have to understand that you are breathing. So what are you breathing? You are breathing air. It is such a simple form that you are taking the air inside you and breathing out the air. And this is a very simple thing that we don't understand or don't recognize most of the time. Even when we are sitting over here, all of us who are listening to this program, how many of us know that we are breathing air? So, when you go to a village, how important it is for a villager that to keep the air pure, to keep the air so much, so much pure that, the air that he or she is breathing knows that it is cleansing the inside. It is curing your inside. This is where the healing comes from. This is where the concept of healing comes from. Okay. So this is what this comes, as I told you, this will only come through travel. It is not very easy to explain. I could use some words, some terminologies to explain it to you over here, but until and unless you do not travel with one of these sustainable leaders in the villages, your teachers in the villages who doesn't have any school education, you don't travel with them and start living with them, it is very tough to understand the entire procedure, but it is much more easier to experience it.
Right.
Because once you experience it, then you start understanding it. So it is an
Right.
easier way instead of understanding it and then experiencing it. So i would
Right.
i would always say that come and experience, and that gives you that understanding.
Right.
Yes.
Landscape and location. The landscape and location of the healing villages plays a critical role in the healing process. Uh, can you kindly elaborate?
Yes, Kuntal, unfortunately, when most of our philosophers in our country have talked about our development of the country through villages, we talk about anyone starting, means tomorrow we will be celebrating our most beloved Mahatma Gandhi's birthday tomorrow. The entire country would be celebrating, maybe many people, many of the Indians, even beyond our country, would be celebrating Gandhiji's birthday, Gandhi Jayanti, but and he is the person who said, India lives in our villages. But how much do we understand that on today's date, even in our constitution, even in our description, even in our dictionaries, we haven't described or we haven't defined what a village is. Only what we say that what is not urban is rural, what is not a
Yeah.
city is a village. Huh.
Yeah.
We say that it's a cluster of houses, which is not multi-storied. We say that, it's a place where people only have primary livelihood. They don't go into secondary livelihood. But do you really feel these are real descriptions of a village? Any village that you have visited in our country, in India, maybe from east to west, north to south, or anywhere in this country, is it only a cluster of houses and some agricultural fields that describes a village? Because if we do that, then we are not approving of the sustainability of the village. A village is the lifestyle of the person who lives over there. A shepherd, we have to understand that how much a shepherd can travel from his village to get his livelihood, her livelihood. How much a trader can travel from a village to get his or her livelihood. How much a mother can travel from the house to get his or her livelihood or living. So when you start look at this travel of the villagers, so that covers the area of the village. That means the water body where we are fishing, where we're getting our fish from, where we are getting our drinking water from, that is part of the village. We cannot say that that the river or the water body is not part of the village, because we are fully dependent on that water resource. And to get that water resource, we are dependent on the forest that is around it. So the forest is the part of the village. Even for our food, we are dependent half on the forest. We go and collect our fern shoots, we go and collect different roots, we go and collect the different seeds, our spices from the forest. So that also makes a major part of our food. So that is also part of the village. Certainly, agriculture is a part of the village. The agricultural fields are the part of the village. But the building material of the houses, where do we get it from? That is part of the village. So we have to start describing or redefining our villages to come to this sustainability, because the life of the village, the lifestyle, because most of the you'll see, even in Sikkim, when we used to discuss before, when and as a advisor to the government of Sikkim, I used to often say, the lifestyle of the people of the villages in Sikkim, the way they live is the real lifestyle. And often I used to have a discussion with the previous chief minister also, saying that when he said that there'll be no kacha houses in Sikkim, I said it took hundreds and thousands of years of tradition to build these houses out of nature. These are the houses, even after a natural calamity, be it an earthquake, be it a fire, be it anything, within 24 hours a village can be built back. But today we are making villages with concrete, with iron, and making them forget their uh, entire resource, their knowledge resource, their wisdom. We are making them forget that. Against what? Against a person who have to go from the city and build it for them. For any natural resource, any natural resource,
I think we lost Mr. Basu. We'll just probably. You back, Mr. Basu? We lost you for a couple of seconds. Hello?
extremely sorry because
No, no, no. I can
now
understand. Was it a power cut or something?
it was a power cut, and the Wi-Fi supply has completely stopped. So it's from one of my colleagues' hotspot that I'm working on.
Right.
Now
Hopefully, hotspots are so dicey. Hopefully,
I
it
understand. I
works.
understand. Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Basu,
Yes.
we were talking
Yes.
about how
So
landscapes and locations. Yeah.
landscape is very important because most of the time the so-called villages near the cities where we have the people coming and crowding up close to the cities, these are the places which we define as villages are actually not villages because people are dependent on the cities for their lifestyle and livelihood. They are not dependent on the natural features or the natural resources that they have. So a village has to have a connectivity with the natural resource, a dependency on the natural resource, and that is where the sustainability comes from. So a village is something what talks about sustainability. When you talk about the biggest of the civilization, you will see that we have lost most of the biggest cities. You'll never hear that we have lost such and such villages in the civilization. You will always listen that you have lost the cities. You lost Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. You lost the big civilizations or big city civilizations because villages are, that's the reason we say that villages are places of sustainability. Villages are the places where you can where you get to learn yourself, understand yourself. So that is the reason you need the nature around you. So to describe a village, we need to redefine the entire philosophy or the entire definition of the village has to be redefined. We have to redefine the entire terminology. And
Right. And Mr. Basu, if you may give us an idea of the kind of the landscape and location of some of these healing villages.
yes, most of these villages that we are working on, as they are part of this East Himalaya and the Indo-Burma landscape that we talked about, and it is full of nature, as we are describing. It is full of nature, and the natural resource, the practice of the natural resource are still there. So any village that you are standing in any of this northeastern part of this country or the adjoining countries is actually a healing village. And we have now slowly starting working on these villages, trying to bring back the traditional practices wherever they have lost the traditional practices. We have started bringing back the traditional practices, and that is the reason we say that a village which is healing is a village where a visitor can heal himself or herself. So a village has to be first be healing. So now we have identified around, we have our main village center where we have got the training center and everything, is a village which is known as Chuikhim. This village of Chuikhim is in the Kalimpong district, which is close to the border of, it is in north of West Bengal, and it is close to the border of Sikkim, close to the border of Bhutan, close to the border of Nepal. All the borders are very close by from this place. This is a continuous stretch of nature that starts from a river, from the legendary river Tista, and it goes up to the top of the mountains where Bhutan, Sikkim, West Bengal, they all come together. It comes over there, and also Tibet. So all of them come together at this point. we started our village as the training center over here. But other than that, from here we have had villagers who have come all the way from Arunachal, from Western Arunachal, from Central Arunachal, from Eastern Arunachal. They have come, they have learned the way of sustainability and the way of healing that is introduced to the visitors that come to the villages. They have learned that. They have gone back to their villages in Arunachal, and they have introduced a similar kind of, in a very innovative way. Only they have learned the patterns over here, but in a very innovative way, they have implemented their traditions into the healing procedures where we have gone and helped them out. So this way, we presently have around 18 villages around between the east and the northeastern area in this entire region
Right.
within India itself. Yes,
Right. Uh, Now, let me come to another point,
yes,
which is one of the uh, permaculture, the joy of growing your own food. Uh,
yes,
with whatever conversations I had and I researched, I realized that the permaculture is a major practice in the healing process of the healing villages.
yes,
This is, there are three questions here. My question number one would be, what is permaculture? What I understand is that that the best example, perhaps to a layman like me, it's our kitchen garden.
yes,
But
yes,
there is definitely more to permaculture. Of course, there's a
yes.
lot more. Can you tell us more what permaculture actually is
Yes,
before I go to the other questions?
certainly, Kuntal, because the video that you saw in the beginning is one of the centers for learning permaculture, the TD farm that you see. This is a small little village, at 8.5 miles close to a town known as Sonada. This is in between Darjeeling and Kursiang that we have. And this wonderful couple who started TD, they came back, from the cities, Ashna and Utsav. They came back and they started building. They started this learning process. I wouldn't say teaching process. They started this learning process with the adjoining villages around TD. They connected all of them and learned the old methodologies that were there, the old methods of agriculture over there. They started introducing them. They brought in some of the modern philosophies into this agriculture, and then gradually they began this permaculture farm over here. And as all of us know, the ancient or the old kind of agriculture, the conventional kind of agriculture that we used to practice was fully labor driven, was so much driven by, it was so much labor intensive that people had to give a lot of time, people had to give a lot of labor, which many of our youth today, they cannot put in that much of labor and this one to continue up with the agriculture. And that is one of the major reasons, because we haven't been able to come out of the old method of agriculture. It is one of the major reasons for our youth to migrate from the villages. Secondly, is the modern agriculture that is being taught to us. The present day agriculture is so much driven by the carbon, by different kind of the equipment through tractors and through manuals and all these things. This comes in as within the modern this one. And often we don't understand the ecological part. When we talk about the modern agriculture, we do not talk about the ecological part of it. So that we miss completely. Whereas when we talk about permaculture, this is, I wouldn't say that this is a very old methodology. This is a combination of the old methodology and the use of your own learning from nature. The architecture of nature, the better you learn the architecture of nature, the better better you understand the architecture of nature, and you follow the natural farming, the natural procedure of farming, or the old method of farming. A combination of these two creates permaculture. So permaculture is not something that you just learn something and you can go and implement it anywhere. It is not that way. A permaculturist, the one who practices permaculture, or the village which practices permaculture, has first to start with the learning of nature, or the natural architecture which is there, how the nature comes in, and then following the agricultural processes in such a way where there is hardly any carbon emission, where there is hardly any, because even the present day agriculture that we see, that we do, starting from growing rice to wheat to all this agriculture that we do, we are actually adding to the carbon to the carbon this one to the carbon footprint actually. So this is where, to reduce the carbon footprint, to create an understanding of the nature, to practice the understanding of the architecture of nature, and then doing your production of the food that you need. So this is what is permaculture is about. And
Right.
permaculture teaches you, a permaculture village or a permaculture practitioner teaches you how you can sustain yourself completely within a small area that is given to you. So again, it is sustainability. You are not dependent on another transport system that brings something for you. You are not dependent on another system that you. So you start sustaining yourself locally. So this is what, a permaculture. So permaculture is not something what comes through only learning through books or through learning through models, but it comes through practice, it comes through understanding, and it comes through your own intellect. So the better your understanding of the nature architecture, the better you are a permaculturist when you're introducing for your own food or for the villagers' food or for the adjoining food areas.
And you touched upon a few points of my second question, but I'll still ask: how does
Yes.
visitors engaging in permaculture in the healing villages heals not only themselves but also nature?
Yes. This is again, a wonderful thing that you can see from this slide over here. You can see the spiral gardens of TD down below. You can see the spiral gardens. So the spiral gardens are something, where they have used, the altitudes, the way they have developed it up. At the top, you have some kind of plants, and down below, you have the other kind of plants, and below where the water gets caught up, you have the different kind of food material or the food plants that have to be grown. So this is the intellectuality where you have used the minimum space, but you get your entire food produced. You are not malnutrited because you have the different kind of nutrition that you need for your body to be developed, for your mind to be developed, is available from here. So this is something, this art that you have learned from nature. Because if you look at the evolving of nature, when you are standing by the river, you will find that a river, when it changes its course, first the grassland comes up, and then the few thorny, the few thorny trees and bushes that comes up, and then gradually you have the bigger trees that is taken over by the forest, and then you have the black soil that comes up. So you start learning the evolution of a forest from a river bed, and this is how you learn permaculture from your adjoining nature that is there. That is how you use. So when you start understanding and learning from the forest, that certainly connects you to nature immediately with you. And this is how a visitor learns from the permaculture practice, by doing that permaculture on a site where a village already practices this permaculture, and not only tradition in agriculture. Because traditional agriculture which is there, as I told you, it is not something what you get directly from nature, because most of this agriculture that we do today is actually destruction of nature, and then introducing agriculture for food for the people or food for the world, food for human beings. That is what food for the world is, not only for the entire world, but we are only talking about food for the human being. But through permaculture, you only use that amount of space where you have food for yourself and for your community. So this learning is actually a healing learning. This learning of nature, or this learning of how to live with nature and not to conquer nature, is something what gives you this feeling of healing, or this practice of healing, or understanding your inner architecture. All are related to each other.
Yeah, these are the several practices of what you call
Yes,
working on your inner architecture.
yes,
Mr. Basu, there's something very interesting which has happened during the lockdown. I don't know if you had friends doing this, but during the lockdown, I have seen a lot of people starting Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups, and these groups were themed around growing their own organic vegetables in whatever space of the cramped apartments, even in the tiny balconies. Many of my friends, some of them have started these groups, they say that actually growing their own vegetables in whatever space they had has helped them retain their sanity during these difficult times, mainly during the lockdown. How do you see this?
This, Kuntil, you have to understand. A small little virus, has taken the ego out of you.
Right.
All these days you felt, that I work for a corporate house that pays me so much and I can buy anything in this world. And your departmental store next door can give you whatever you want. Your Amazon online can give you whatever you want. But what it cannot give you is ananda, peace, or happiness. So finally, in this lockdown period, you started understanding that you actually are looking for happiness. Otherwise, this virus, this fright of the virus, have taken the entire ego from inside you. And when it has taken the ego from inside you, you are living your happiness was living on an ego. You understood that, and then this is where the mind practice started. This is where when you talk about mindfulness, your mindfulness started. You started understanding that you are breathing. Otherwise, this small virus may kill you. So this understanding that you are breathing, you then started understanding that there is something what lives beyond what you are thinking is everything in life. Okay. So then you started off, the first thing that you got, the first little bit of nature or air that you can get is your veranda or your rooftop. And you started your small little kitchen garden or your small two flowers or something over there. And what did you get from there? That small flower that you grew that gave the pride inside you. That flower gave you the smell. It gave you the sense of smell. Your sense of smell started working. When you started getting a few leaves from there and eating it as a part of your food, or using that spice as a part of your food, it enacted to live your taste, because that is what you had forgotten. You had certainly got used to the food that you brought through this online companies, either through Swiggy or through any of these companies. You got used to that food. Now you are growing your own food, and you know that you have something what is known as a taste bud. You're starting hearing beyond the horn, the honking of the streets, and you're hearing the birds that is coming to the small plants or trees which are there. You are hearing the buzzing of the bees who are coming to pollinate your flowers and the things that you are growing over there. You have started hearing things. You have started tasting things. You have started seeing things yourself. You are seeing things, in front of you, some greenery that is going, which you often overlook. And now it comes with a pride because you are growing it yourself. And this is where, as a part of our rural villages, or these healing villages that we talk about, we have started something what is known as griha vatika. Your griha vatika is something where you through this method of permaculture, you can grow your own salads. You can grow your own healing medicinal plants. You can grow your own roots. So a lot of things what you can grow in your own kitchen garden is what we call the griha vatika. So this concept of kitchen garden, your concept of veranda garden, your concept of roof garden is something what we have evolved into griha vatika. And so this griha vatika, what happens is, instead of using a perfume or a room freshener in your room, you actually have a fresh flower that you carry from your griha vatika, put it into your room as a room freshener, which gives you, the good smell, a good sight that you can see. So, this enhancing your senses is actually healing. Because
Right.
if your five senses, your sense of touch, your sense of smell, your sense of taste, your sense of sight, your sense of hearing, if they are right, if they are on the right track, then you have enhancing your sixth sense, that your mind itself. So
Right.
this is where the healing takes place.
And growing your own food and your own vegetables, whatever, maybe two tomatoes, doesn't matter.
Yes,
It
yes.
gives you a lot of pride, and that's kind of heals yourself. Like completely, it's fantastic how you put it, Mr. Vasu. My slide is, yeah. No, yeah, okay. My another question which I wanted to ask you is actually related to permaculture. What are the kind of things that are grown in these healing villages? You were telling me that about the Sunday organic heart in Siliguri, where most of the stuff is sold in this market by the healing villages. Uh, what is the kind of support that you have received from the Siliguri locals? Tell us more.
Yes,
I mean, there are three
because
questions in one question, but yeah,
yes, I understand. I
yeah,
understand that, because what you must understand, Council, that our generation or the generation before us, they actually came from villages, and
yeah,
they have already been disconnected, especially during this time when we say, people below 60 or 65, people above 60 or 65 years should not go out of their apartments, should not go to the market, should not go anywhere. You can feel that what is happening to their mind. They have already been jailed over here. So they are the people who are very nostalgic of what they had during their childhood. That little bit of fun shoot that they had, with the mustard paste, or maybe uh, any of this roots that we eat, any of this this what you say any of this food that we get from the forest. Lot of this food, even you,
honey,
you see the where we wrap it in the entire northeast, we don't give plates. We wrap the rice into a leaf, and then a kind of barley leaf that is there. We wrap that into the leaf, and that becomes your plate. You just open up your food, and then you can put anything on your rice and eat it up. These kind of cultures which we had already lost, we have started bringing it back to the Sunday heart. It is an experimental place where we want people to get connected to their roots, because as I told you, a village is healing only if it is dependent on the biodiversity. That means more than 50% of their food comes from their backyard biodiversity. It doesn't come from mainstream agriculture. Maybe they grow their rice, their maize, all these things, but the other things, their spices and herbs and the other part of the food, they get it from their backyard biodiversity, which most of our northeastern states, our so-called tribals that we talk about, whom we think, they are at the backyard. Even they think that by eating the modern food or modern thing, we become civilized. No, they are more civilized to their sustainable lifestyle. And this civilization, we are bringing it into the Sunday heart. We are connecting these sources of this biodiversity over here. This is what we are doing at present, and this is what is giving us our energy over here to the people. The energy that the people are getting, they can they can truly understand that the food that they buy from the regular market and the food and the produce that they buy from the Sunday heart, maybe it's a bamboo bottle or a bamboo glass that they are buying, instead of a plastic glass or a metal this one. The vessels that they are cooking in are now terracotta vessels that they are cooking in. These kind of changes we are gradually bringing into the lifestyle, and they are getting the benefits of it. It is a slow movement. It is not a fast movement. It is a slow movement that is happening, but it is happening because this is what we have to do. That our cluster of villages, wherever we have these traditional practices, have to be allowed to come to the nearby cities, and then this nearby cities, when they start practicing that, they would know where to go to actually learn this entire practice from. So this is what a healing village, how we attract a healing village. It doesn't have to be someone from very far away who has to come to this healing village. It could be the nearest town or city from where they can come actually.
right. And how has been the support of the Siliguri locals to
It has
this?
been wonderful. It has grown through the years because it is not only about the food, the thing, it is also about a lot of village music, folk music that comes in. It is also about a lot of folk tales, the stories that comes from the village. People come and share their village stories with the city people. And then the city people, the elderly people, they become nostalgic about it. And then
Right.
they want to go back to these villages because they have lost their houses and connectivity. But now tourism through the Sunday Heart gives them the connectivity. So they travel with one of these agriculturists, permaculturists. They go and stay with them in their village for 15 days, 20 days, learning the culture. So this has been a wonderful, a journey, which starts from a small little Sunday Heart, from a small little market, and then takes you to the village where you want to go and where you want to learn from, where you want to heal yourself from.
Right. Uh, Joy of sharing in nature is another practice of the healing villages, working on the inner architecture. And it's about going back to nature. Can you tell us more about how this is done?
Yes, and the picture over here says it all. You can see now,
Yeah,
standing in this wonderful landscape. It could be anywhere in the northeastern part of India. It could
yeah,
be anywhere in the East Himalaya.
yeah,
Each and every village has got this view. That uh, the continuous forest that is in front of you. You can see the sky, the horizon is is nowhere. You can see, the fresh air that the couple over here could be breathing over here from here, and the sound they would be hearing. You can understand, So this location itself is what is, this natural location itself which gives you everything. So the sound of the birds, the sound of the air, the sound of the falling leaves, the sound of the, bamboo in the air when they clatter among themselves. These are the natural sound which heals the inside of you. Through the sound you heal yourself. To the eyes that see this kind of scenery, that heals you, it completely heals you, because these are not billboards where you find, written, some advertisement for what you can consume. It is the advertisement what really connects you. So these are the billboards that are there in front of you, where your sight heals actually. This is the taste from the nature. Around you would be getting half your food from there that you would want for lunch or dinner. You could collect from here and take it to the kitchen and get it cooked. So you know how your taste works. The touch itself, the touch of the soil, the touch of the grass, the touch of the trees. For so long you have only touched the steering of your car. For so long you have only touched the handle of your refrigerator. For such a long time you have only touched the switch of your washing machine. You have forgotten how the touch of nature, the variety of nature, because you have only touched produces from the industry, which where the touch is almost similar. So here there is a variety of touch that gives you the sense of touch. So the senses that develop in the villages from this nature that you get. That is the reason, you'll never find a shepherd who is going to mean for their, with their cow or with their goat or with their sheep. You'll never see them carrying water or carrying food. But how do they sustain themselves the whole time, the whole day? They only come back at night in their shepherd shed and then cook their food. But before that, not that they go hungry, not that they go thirsty. They know how to get their food from nature, and they are the happiest being. You'll hardly find a shepherd going to a doctor and saying, "No, I need a doctor," because he or she is already healed from outside and from inside. They can actually, you know, your cow or your goat, they actually talk to them, because this long period of time that they spend with them, they know how to communicate with them. So they can call them by their names and they respond. So this is what, what is healing is all about. This is what the learning from nature is about. And this is what the people, the visitors who are coming, they have to come and learn. It just cannot be, 2 nights or 3 nights, and then you say, it's time for me to go back. I have my office over there. Because if you have your office over there, you have your mind over here. So your mind has to be trained to be active and to be successful in your office. And this is where healing plays a major role.
Right. Uh, Another thing which is more very really important in today's time, which we even have included in our policy, is uh, the regenerative tourism. Regenerative tourism is the driving spirit of these healing villages. The idea is very simple. Visitors arrive, add more value to the place, and leave the place, making it a slightly better space than before, thereby healing themselves, the nature, and the community. How does that happen? How do visitors add more value to the healing villages and leave the place slightly better space than before?
Yes, Tontin, you have answered a lot of it in your previous discussions only. While you
Yeah,
are discussing, when you said, resource
yeah,
exchange of resource between ecology and economy, because, what is it yet that we are looking for healing to? Because it is only a healing mind that can actually keep a body very healthy. So it is the mind which has to be healed. First is the respect that we are talking about. We often say in our culture, Atithi Devo Bhava. We often say it. So when you talk about regeneration, we consider our guests as our gods. And why we consider our guests as our gods? Is it because is it only because they have the money? We have to understand that. Because if it was only money, then we always would look at him as the duck that lays the golden egg. We will never look at him or her, as a Atithi Deva Bhava. We not look at him as a god. So if he or she is a god, that means he or she would come to change our minds, would come to heal the minds of the villagers also. If he or she is coming to heal from the village, then he or she would also come and help in the healing of the villagers' minds also. So what does it heal? What it heals is his compassionate mind, the exchange of this compassionate mind that he or she gives. Second is when he or she is exchanging the resource through respect. This respect, respect that he or she is giving to the tradition, at the same time helping them in the modern education, helping them with the modern health facilities, helping them, to connect to the cities. Because a tourist who comes to a village is not a tourist who is only coming for paying. A tourist who comes to a village goes back as a relation of a village, because tomorrow, if a villager has to send his or her son to study into the nearby city, because that is where we have failed in our country, we haven't been able to give a good education system in our village. We haven't been able to give a good health system in the village. This is the only reason, and one of the major reasons, why our people from the villages they migrate is education. Because for any higher education, you have to go to a city, and for any health facility, you have to go to a city. So when you want your son or daughter to study, you know that there is a professor or a teacher who has come and stayed in your village, in your homestay. So that connects actually. From there you can go. They become your best, counselors to tell you where you can put them into education. When your elderly people, when your father, mother, or anyone is not well in the village, then you have to take them to a doctor, and you know that the doctor have already stayed with you in this village, maybe in your nearby neighbor's homestay. But he or she is the relation to the village. He or she is not a tourist to that only to that homestay. Is not tourist to the only vehicle that brings him on earth. But when it's rural tourism and when it's about healing, it is the entire village that gets involved. So you know a doctor in a city, maybe someone in Arunachal would never be able to come to Guwahati for a treatment, or to go to Bangalore for a treatment, or to go to Mumbai for a treatment. But when the village gets visitor or tourist, or the visitors gets people who come for a long time for healing, they would know that there is a doctor who has come. And immediately by a phone, they could get an appointment and maybe stay as a guest of the doctor in that city and get themselves treated. So this entire process of resource exchange and relation that is developed is actually creating a commune. And this commune is the commune of sustainability and regeneration. This commune helps to create a better village, because the villager himself or herself cannot create that best village without the visitor coming in. And the visitor should understand that how sensible and how wise he or she should be, how compassionate he or she should be, that he or she should help in creating this village, or creating a better village, uh, uh, more better than what he or she had seen or visited actually. And this lifelong connectivity is something what keeps the regeneration on. So this is what a healing village is all about. Is where it creates a commune between the visitor from the city and the commune of the villagers who are there together. So it's a commune of regeneration. It is not only a commune from a village or a commune from a city. It is both together who creates a commune of sustainability. So this is where the
Fantastic.
regeneration takes place. Yes, Pankaj.
Fantastic. Yes. A typical day in a healing village, if there is any.
Yes, certainly. any day is a typical day in a healing village.
Yeah.
If you spend a day with the mother of the house, going to the agriculture, going to bring water from the nearby source, going and harvesting something, going and sowing something, is a full day with a mother in a village, which is more than healing. A full day with a shepherd in a village. You go with the shepherd, follow the shepherd's trail. A full day in a village is something. A day as a monk in a monastery, is a full day of healing, that you listen to the sound of the monasteries and everything. That heals you from inside. In the similar way, any participation in the daily life of a villager is healing for you actually. So
Right.
it is not about reinventing certain activities, but it's actually living as a villager.
It's
or
being
living as a
it's
tribal.
yeah, it's
Yes,
being a part of the daily rhythm of the village,
yes,
and
yes, yes,
let everything happen naturally to you. Is
yes.
that yeah? Right,
Exactly, exactly, exactly.
right. Uh, Locations of the healing villages, actual locations, because that's our guests would like to know, our audience would like to know what are the
I,
actual, some of the
I
actual
know this is,
locations.
yes, I know there are several locations as I have told you.
Hmm.
I would say that let us stick to the airports because most of our guests we would know that they would come through the airports. So the airport like starting from Bagdogra all the way to Guwahati and then going into Dibrugarh, Tezpur. All these airports are certainly centers that connects you to the villages. Also, in Bhutan now we have started airport close to Gelefu to Bumthang, other than Paro Airport. So these are places where from where you can reach the healing villages. Also, in the northern part of Bangladesh, we have certain airports that can take you to the healing villages. Parts of eastern Nepal, starting from Biratnagar to Taplejung, there are these certain airports where these very small aircrafts comes in. These are places immediately you are connected to these healing villages in the Himalaya. So all these several villages are spread, within 5 to 6 hours from these airports that I have talked about, and there are these several villages, and there is several ways of feeding yourself. So before all the people who want to understand about healing, it's like a practicing doctor. Even the tour operators or the destination management companies who would provide you these healing villages, they would be like doctors to you. They would have proper understanding of these villages, and when you go to them, by talking to you, by counseling you, it is not about booking your holidays into these villages, but it is
Absolutely.
actually, yes, it is actually booking your healing program with your tour operator or your destination manager actually. So this is
It's almost like a wellness program in our language, what we talk about, right?
very true. A little beyond that, a
Yeah.
little beyond that, because each and every person who is helping you with this healing process has to practice that themselves. Each and everyone who connects you to these healing villages have to practice that themselves first, and to learn the process to actually connect a visitor or a guest to these healing villages. So it comes to the practice itself. It's a learning. Like when you do travel and tourism, you have to learn. When you are doing your, when you're giving services into the air services, you have to learn. The transport service has to learn. So as you learn each and every field, so healing is the field that each and every person who is providing this or connecting the visitors to these healing villages have to learn the process. They have to undergo this process.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of what are the kind of accommodation which is available in the healing villages, and what would you say would be the minimum stay period?
Yes, uh, certainly. This is a question which would take a longer time, and I think until we are running out of time actually.
No, no, continue. No, no problem.
Because
Everybody is enjoying it
what happens,
actually.
as I told you, there is a waste management
Yeah,
program that has to come,
yeah,
and I have to go to this Toribari village, which is close
yeah.
to Siliguri. I have to go to this village and set up
All right. Yes.
a meeting with them, as I told
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
And if it becomes
We
too
need to
dark,
let you go. We need to let you go soon.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. But let me tell you, the accommodation that we talk about are mostly homestays, because homestays are the only place from where the healing process can start. A lot of us, we understand homestays. We think it is an alternative for a hotel or a resort or a lodge or a resort, or maybe a cheaper version of that. For them, please let me tell you that a homestay has its own identity. It is a place where the host in the host family shares the most secure, cultured, and personal space with a visitor, which is there. It is, you please do not mistake it by B&B, bed and breakfast, or something at that sort. Because in Asia, our home is something what we consider, as our most sacred place. Because by the end of the day, we come to this place and we share the fire with the family. So it is the fire, that the kitchen that connects all of us. So the kitchen in the Asian home, in the Asian rural home, that plays the major role. And this kitchen is the, I would say, the holiest place for a person who practices biodiversity. You know, so this is what we share. So the homestay is very important, a very authentic, and a homestay is something with a family is something what a visitor to the healing village first look forward to, because this homestay is then the classroom and they connect to the nature that what we want to introduce. And this homestay practices with the nature, with the backyard biodiversity, their involvement into biodivinity is something that connects to everyone. So the homestay is actually the place. Many of us may think, we'll create tents, we'll create camps, we'll do this, we'll do that. No, that gives you some kind of interaction with nature, but that doesn't teach you how to live with nature. Because these families who are hosting you through generations have learned how to live with nature, how to be a part of nature and not conquering nature and not looking at nature only as leisure. So this is what, what we use. All these accommodation are actually homestays. Uh, a lot of state tourism departments have created training programs for them through policies and everything. So there are these basics what the city person is looking forward to is available in the homestay today. But as I have told you before, to understand your inner architecture, this homestay and the homestay pattern, the homestay food, the homestay lifestyle matters a lot. So it is your tour operator or travel agent or destination manager who has learned this by living over there, who can put you onto over here, who can connect you to these places. So this connection is very necessary. This authentic connectivity is very necessary. And this is where
And
you have to learn it from. The minimum number of days, because means, when you talk about the minimum number of days, this is a very important thing, that anything that you do, it first needs to train yourself from inside. You have to train your mind, you have to train your body, you have to learn how to start living with it. So it takes minimum 5 days, 5 clear days to actually start understanding that where the healing starts from. Huh? You don't start healing yourself, but only to understand where your healing starts with 5 days. So anything between 5 days to 100 days is something from where you start learning your healing procedure. So you have to understand that maybe you only have 5 days. So come and understand what the healing is about and how it heals you. It cannot give you any healing procedure. But when you start living beyond these 5 days to 10 days or 15 days or 20 days, then you start getting involved into the entire healing procedure. You start feeling that healing that is happening in your mind and body. And this is what plays a major role.
right, my
So,
my my last question for you, taking back the practices home. Now I have stayed in the healing villages for say about 20 days, and I go
yes.
back home. Once visitors go back home, go back to their homes, how can they continue practicing what they have learned from the healing villages? Because this is the most difficult part. Uh, for when you peep out of your homes in the cities, you won't see a gurgling stream or a misty hills, but concrete buildings with all the chaos, with all the noise and all the pollution to begin with. How can we do these practices
Kuntal,
at home?
Kuntal, you have already answered that through your regenerative tourism that you have talked about.
Right,
This answered it, because I told you when you have to create regenerative tourism, then you have to create this sustainable commune. And the
right,
sustainable commune cannot be the village alone. It has to be the village and the city people, visitors who are going to there. So after the city people knows that what heals them, they start and replicating, as I told you, they start bringing back this Griya Vatika inside their houses. And
right.
after a few Griya Vatikas have been formed into your houses, then you start creating your own little urban forest within your city as a group. So from an individual, you create Griya and from a group of Griya Vatikas, where you can keep a water body over there. So these are the things, what you start as a commune. So you're not cut off completely. So this sustainable commune, creating this sustainable commune is the most vital thing of these healing villages. because every person who comes back from these healing villages, they spread the word. Again, his or her friends and relations go over there. They come back to the same city. First, they create the Griya Vatika, the rooftop garden, their kitchen garden over there. They start practicing permaculture on the different stories that they live, and then gradually, as a whole, as a commune, they start creating an urban forest or an urban place where they can get together, find themselves, and bring more people over there. So this commune of urban forest and these rural people, they slowly connect each other, because it is not only then that the urban people go and visit them, also the rural people come and help them with this urban site, this urban forest. And this is what is creation of Sunday Heart is creating that urban forest where you have the sustainable cultures brought in by the villagers, maybe once a week, once a month, or once every or twice every year. It could be anything, but there more frequency of them coming over here and these people visiting over there, creating these spaces is what you take back and what you create to beat whatever you call today as climate change.
Lovely, Mr. Vasu. I would, uh, this is Loveleen Sagar, who is a senior vice president and also uh, who heads the committee on sustainability in organizations. She's there. Loveleen, can I have the last words from you, the closing comments?
No, I think this was such a brilliant conversation and discussion, and we didn't know that there was something so beautiful that existed in India where you could practice all of the sustainability that we've been preaching so far. So thank you, Mr. Basu, for being with us and opening our eyes to a whole wide spectrum of what is possible.
Thank you so much, Loveleen. We have a lot of questions. Mr. Vasu, would you, with your permission, can I take one or two questions? Because I know you need to travel now.
I need to rush actually. I was supposed to reach there by 5:30, but if I leave now, I can only reach there at 6 o'clock.
Right. I think I will keep this question and maybe I'll email it to you and maybe you can
Please.
reply to some of
Yes.
these questions.
I'll certainly do that. Without me,
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah. We'll let you go.
Yes.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you, and we will definitely connect you with you for the healing villages and definitely visit the healing villages. Thank you so much, Mr. Vasu. And
Thank you.
stay safe, stay healthy, and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kuntal. Thank you very much, Lovelin. And thank you, the entire team of Sita. We'll certainly get back on this. Thank you.
Yeah, surely.